Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of fast, furious and frantic racing action in the one and only iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, the official iRacing series as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing and powered by the brilliant sim racing hardware provider CONSPIT. We're here then for week number 11 of the 2025 Season 3 campaign. We have made our way around the globe, and last time out we wrapped up our American triple header, and we have made our way back to the European continent, which is where we'll stay to conclude our racing over the entirety of the season. For our penultimate week, we are here in Portugal for the rather young but old school in vibe. It is none other than the Algarve International Circuit, also known as the Portimão Circuit in reference to a local city. A circuit spanning 2.85 miles and consisting of an absolute plethora of corners. Variety is the spice of life in this circuit, with plenty of long straights, many a sweeper, many a hairpin and elevation changes all crammed in, and it is the perfect venue for drivers to go toe to toe in their Porsche Cup racing machines. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side. You're tuning in to the top split broadcast from our regular 1945 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC time slot on this Wednesday, the 27th of August 2025, and we are all set and ready to go for another brilliant strength for field race. And the commentary booth, you have myself, Paul TX1 Walsh, also known as Britness Bit, depending on what media you follow me on, and you're catching this broadcast live on YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX1TX or Paul Walsh, depending on your preference, and indeed the channel will be returns there. But as we head into today, of course, the qualifying session is currently underway, but in approximately 4 minutes' time, we'll be making our way to the grid for our 14-lap race, which will be due to get underway at approximately 5 to 8 this evening in GMT time. But as we make our way into this evening's race, well, where exactly have we been so far, and what is still lying in wait is the big question. And let's give you a recap of the calendar so far. And as we can see, we have made our way from Belgium to Brazil to Japan to Australia to the Netherlands, last time out of course, to America, which we wrapped up after weeks 8, 9 and 10, with week number 10 seeing our drivers take on the Wisconsin State Countryside Circuit of Road America. And here today, we're in Portugal for the Algarve International Circuit. After today, we'll be making our way to Hungary for the Hungaroring, and that's where we'll bring the curtain down on what's been an absolutely brilliant season of racing in week number 12. But before we get there, we must complete the Algarve International Circuit, and what a circuit we have in store. As we can see, the track map here, thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulators, but the track maps to come with it. The Grand Prix circuit is an absolute Goliath of a course. 15 corners in this circuit, located within the city limits of Portimão, in the district of Faro, in the Algarve region of Portugal. And this two-dimensional image does not do the circuit justice. But the fact, elevation changes are absolutely rampacked into practically every corner sequence around here, from the very start of Primera Corda all the way to conclusion at Galp, and therefore for our drivers it's just as much about being bold on the brakes, being smart on the accelerator, and also dealing with road camber. None more so perhaps than the run all the way from the hairpin at turn number 5 all the way up to the Sagres hairpin at turn number 14, where you do have that constant switch between camber corners and off camber corners, on top of the fact you do have downhill and uphill braking zones, and that what could be that catches out even the best of our drivers as they go racing here today. But as we get ready to go racing, a quick reminder of the rules. This is an open setup series where drivers bring in open setups to each and every round of racing. It's their choice what they put in terms of the setup of the car and the fuel that goes into it, and when they do go racing, the grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently underway, with the race commencing via a standing start as it's a tradition of the iRacing Porsche Cup. Drivers will receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points, and should they get to 25, they will be disqualified. But hopefully we won't see any disqualifications. We haven't so far this season. But what we have seen is brilliant racing, and let's head back to circuit side to see plenty more today as all drivers make the way around, and as they do, well, they're not too far away from making the way to the green flag for racing. But as we do see Philip Hammer gradually making his way tentatively through Segred's corner at turn number 14, where he's currently the fastest of our drivers in this qualifying session. Remember, it's 1 out lap plus 2 flying laps, and all our drivers there will need to try and get things absolutely nailed on, because whilst qualifying is going to be perhaps only the first part of the day, it's arguably one of the more important parts, because battling here is highly possible, and you can see that from the pictures. This circuit is very wide. It's wide enough to go 2, 3, even 4 wide at certain points. However, battling around here is going to cost you a lot of time. But Philip Hammer raises the bar there to a 45.503, and as we see Corey Lazarus there, well, he's picked up a invalidation of his lap, a slowdown down with it. So therefore he's decided to park in the gravel there at turn number 14. Well, he won't be going any higher than 4th place. But there we can see Zach Hert as well. Newcomer to the grid as a Road America. Well, right now the number 13 driver looking quite cool and on course here for what could be a top 10 start. And well, that's going to definitely be a good start to his day here, given the fact that it was a bit of mixed fortunes last time out at Road America. But at the turn at number 5, seeing him end up in an altercation with another driver and with a lot of damage on the car. It didn't quite click the way he wanted it to, but I'm sure he'll be thinking that things are already clicking in the right direction here today, and that's the way he'll want it to go. Now, strength of field for this week's broadcast is 3,601, and we will very briefly show you the combined license details of all the drivers and competitors there, as you can see on screen. And our highest iRating driver there at 9.2 thousand to the nearest 100, and that is Philip Hammer, and well, he's being closely followed by Gareth Higgins in second place on 8.5k. But as all drivers come towards the end of their qualifying laps, Christian Carlson being one of the last few to get a valid qualifying lap in. Well, he roars his way towards the timeline here, does the 5.3k iRating driver, and well, currently in 9th place. Can he go a little bit higher? The answer is yes, he can. He can go 6th provision on the grid on a 46.273. We've also got plenty of newcomers here today, and one, if you've been following iRacing official broadcasts over the course of this year, will stand out. It's your 3rd place man, Victor Nielsen, or should we say in full, Victor Truslev Nielsen, one of the major competitors in the Danish F4 Esports Championship for 2025, as was brought to you on the official iRacing YouTube channel, and I had the pleasure of covering it alongside an absolutely brilliant commentary team, and we got to see some fantastic racing from none other than Victor Nielsen, and indeed as he chased after that championship crown. But he's one of many newcomers here today, and well, in the next 15 seconds we'll be seeing all the newcomers and our veterans all make their way to the grid for what will be a 14-lap race. As right now the only driver yet to get a lap on the board, well, in terms of completing his final qualifying lap, is Sergio Poulet, but he does so, and that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And let's make our way to the grid then for today's race. So as the drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up then for our Week 11 2025 Season 3 top-split broadcasted race here from the Algarve International Circuit in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. And as we can see, Philip Hammer takes pole position for Pole Promotion Esports. Another pole position to be added to his bag for this season, but can he convert it into a win? Well, that'll be the challenge that confronts him. He's joined on the front row of the grid by Gareth Higgins. The number 2 driver there lines up in 2nd. In 3rd, well, the numbers do not continue because it's your number 4 driver, Victor Truslev Nielsen, for Arctic Sim Sport, who starts there ahead of Corey Lazarus, the privateer, who'll be hoping for a straightforward day today as he chases yet another podium for this season. We'll then have Jason Munson, new to the grid from the United Kingdom. He begins this one in 5th place, ahead of Christian Carlson, who starts 6th from Norway. And then we do have the Swiss driver there of Fabian Ming, 7th on the grid, and we'll waddle out from him to be only 700ths faster than Sergio Poulet right at the close of the session. From the Spaniard, it's then the fellow Swiss of Zach Hert, who starts 9th, and we have James Parker, who wraps up your top 10 on the number 12 car. He was 1 second over the overall pace, and well behind him it was only a further 1.5 attempts before you got to another newcomer, Thomas Frost there, who starts this one best the rest in 11th. He'll be in the company of Dutchman Connor Franson, and on row number 7, your regular there of Carl McGuinness, and indeed our star in the photo for the thumbnail today, well, he'll be starting 13th ahead of Matthias Trautmann. From the Austrian, it'll then be the Barbados resident there of none other than Kadim Mohamed, ahead of Bartomej Bazuka, with then Adam Klamvik and Arkadiusz Muikla starting on 17th and 18th, and in your top 20 completed by none other than Riley Jones-Rodway and Alan Backley. And completing the starting order on the penultimate row of the grid, we do have Radek Cerny and Bernard Geiger, with Kimi Drazone and Alvaro Rodriguez completing your starting order. But down to the front of the field we go, ladies and gentlemen, because the lights are going on. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5, and without further ado, our strength of field race gets underway for week number 11 as the lights go out, and Philip Hammer there looks to get a good start, but further back it's a slow start for many, and Victor Nielsen immediately coming across the inside there, getting his elbows out versus Corey Lazarus, but Lazarus goes back up the inside of him immediately into turn number 1. But now this is where they'll all calm down as a lot of drivers run out wide there, using the runoff area to their advantage. Victor Nielsen picking up a slowdown penalty for track limits right at the start of this race, and as they all make their way underneath the blimp camera, oh goodness me, that's Christian Carlson who's gone sideways. He's going to drop down the order quite early on as all the drivers make their way up the hill in towards turn number 4, and as they do, well, we can see Klamvik there trying to battle his way ahead of Kadim Mohamed, but he's he's a little bit too far back right now to try and look for that move, and he's going to have to wait his turn. Further up the order, into the hairpin at turn number 5. Well, that's a change of place there for Jason Munson up into 4th ahead of Corey Lazarus. So Lazarus now a bit of a slow start and falling back behind Munson, as Munson there in the pink BWT machine now trying to push onwards as they roar the way in towards the latter half of the lap. But this is where now we'll start to see a couple of drives potentially calm things down. As soon as I say that, well, that's Carl McGuinness there, where he tucks in behind Connor Franson, and Fabian Ming just in front of him, taking a bit of an excursion to the runoff area, but just about getting away with it. But here we see Franson and Ming side by side, coming through the left-hander in towards Portimão corner, and onto the brakes they go, and where it looks like Franson there in the Red Bull machine is going to get the job done, as hold up a second, that's Jason Munson who's gone round. We've been seeing their parts up in the camera view for a brief moment, so he's had a bit of a nightmare. We'll have to get a replay of that when we can. It's definitely been a bit of a dramatic opening lap of this race, and Carl McGuinness right now under pressure from a recovering Christian Carlson, as we can see there, him and his teammate on Fabian Ming, both under pressure. Oh no, it's all gone wrong, and that is going to be McGuinness and Franson coming together. They're coming down into turn number 14. Car runs a bit wide there. That is going to be an excursion for, I believe, Matthias Trautmann, as he makes his way around, in fact loses the rear of the car, and when it's a dramatic end to the open lap of this race, and we've still got plenty more to come. But after one lap of racing, it's Gareth Higgins who leads. He's taking the lead off of Philip Hammer and tries to bolt away. They're heading down towards turn number 1. Hammer's close behind, only 1.5 tenths between the two of them. Victor Nilsson sits in 3rd. A further second behind him is Corey Lazarus, and that's your top 4. Then we have an absolutely exciting battle there for Sergio Pole versus Zach Haight, and they're fighting over 5th place, where Thomas Frost also trying to get involved here. He cuts up the inside, and Zach Haight now losing some places, very quickly losing 2 places there for the price of 1 move, and I think Sergio Pole getting his elbows out there, and indeed has got some temperature in those tyres. However, Thomas Frost and Zach Haight now going to go toe-to-toe. Haight looks up the inside, but the Swiss driver there finding himself being pinned in by the number 6. He's not going to be able to try and make the move up the inside. Indeed, has to try and look around the outside of the hairpin, but to no avail. Outside of them, then we do have Fabian Ming in 8th, ahead of Christian Carlson in 9th, and James Parker completes your top 10 there in the ATEC racing machine. But as all these drivers now are all the way around, and we see Kadeem Mohammed trying to get a little bit closer to Parker, well, he's going to have to work a bit harder for that, as Carl McGuinness, meanwhile, well, he looks to go around the outside there of Adam Klamvik, and well, that's a classic move there, but remember that McGuinness is sporting some damage on his car, as he has a little wobble there coming for the right-hander of turn in number 8, and well, that wobble will definitely cost him some pace, as Klamvik pulls right behind him, and Matthias Trautmann, meanwhile, the Austrian driver here, looking to go around the outside to the inside, coming in towards turns 11 and 12, a very difficult braking zone here. You brake for turn 12 at the apex of 11, so you're braking whilst turning on the front axle, but Matthias Trautmann there still side by side with Klamvik, but Klamvik returns to the position now as they come up into turn number 13, onto the anchors they come, and well, the number 16 driver there backs out of it. A good attempt, couldn't quite make it happen, but he will try again a little bit later, there's no doubt about that, as Bernhard Gerger now looks to tuck in behind in the number 14, and well, he does so, they're a very colourful livery on the car, and well, I imagine that might be a tribute to the, what is the 90-year anniversary livery that was run by Porsche as of the 24 Hour of Le Mans in 2023, if my memory serves me correctly, and well, that car looking absolutely beautiful as it roars its way down the start-finish straight. But as he does so, well, from then we look back to the front of the field, because Gareth Higgins right now, well, he's definitely bitten off a lot that he's trying to chew, but has he bitten off more than he can chew by getting ahead of Philip Hammer, with Victor Nilsson right behind them, as this top 3 is definitely trying to bolt away. Corey Lazarus, meanwhile, he's trying to match the sectors of Victor Nilsson, and indeed the lap times between the two of them very close, and Victor Nilsson and Corey Lazarus are your 2 fastest drivers out. There's Gareth Higgins right now has the unenviable task of trying to keep Hammer at bay, but he causes Hammer to have to back off there in the concertina effect through the hairpin, and as they head over the rise and in towards turn number 7, with Victor Nilsson now closer than he's ever been and looking for an opportunity to try and get into the fight. However, the thing here for our newcomer today, for Arctic Sim Sport, is one thing it is to get close, it's still another thing to entirely pass him, and well, the one thing that Philip Hammer can always be counted on the fact that he doesn't give in, and being Mr. Consistent, well, he'll be absolutely making Victor Nilsson just look for that move, and indeed have to work hard for that opportunity, let alone to get alongside. But roaring the way up the hill now and in towards turn number 13. Well, Nilsson is still tucked in the draft for now, but I think he is aware of the fact that really going for the move here at turn 13 isn't really worth it, and the same at 14 as they all battle a little bit of oversteer there, as you could see, just having to go against the grain of the steering wheel of Victor Nilsson. But he managed to get the car to settle down on its rear end. And that's where essentially you're going uphill up into an apex, and then suddenly the road flattens out and the rear of the car actually wants to come up and around. You lift the rear of the car much more than you would normally in a braking zone by going uphill into that braking zone, and that's the thing that our drivers have to get used to. And that's why this circuit is so much loved by racers, both in the real world and the simulated world, because of the fact it has so much of everything, and it really is old school. It does not follow the template of more modern circuits of the era, with this circuit being unveiled in 2008. But from a history lesson of the circuit, coming back to the racing here, well, we need to take a look back at some of the open lap incidents which really have dictated how the midfield pack has played out in this race, and we start off what happened to Sergio Pole on the opening lap. Now this was a moment for the Spaniard here in the number 8 as he made his way through, tucked in behind Zach Head as he headed through turn number 2 and in towards 3, all over the back of his rival, and a big concertina there, and well, the concertina leading to Christian Carlson being turned around through the domino effect of all the drivers tapping each other. So Christian Carlson was minding his own business, only in the end for his business to be ruined. We then had this happen a bit further behind for Riley Jones-Rodway as he made his way under braking, and the number 20 driver here off tight on the inside, and the incident in front caused them all to concede together, and unfortunately being turned by the number 18 and Bernard Geiger and Alan Buckley all being caught up there, and well, that's what went wrong for them. We had this a little bit later on lap number 1 for Jason Munson, and well, Munson at the time was running inside the top 5, headed up the hill in towards turns 10 and 11, but what exactly went wrong here? It was a tiny tap on the rear, and I believe that was a tap from none other than the car there of Sergio Pole, unless I'm very much mistaken, but that sends him all the way round. So it went wrong for him, and then we had this for Carl McGuinness and Connor Franson towards what was the latter stage of the lap, coming out of turn number 13 towards 14, and well, convergence there between Christian Carlson and also Carl McGuinness, and McGuinness being turned onto the path for Connor Franson, who was an innocent party and ended up in the wrong place at the right time to end up all of them having a trip to the grass. But on lap number 2, we also had this happen to Bernard Geiger. This was coming down the start-finish straight, and well, Geiger was looking up the inside versus the Rexy machine, rubbing paint between the two of them. The dinosaur went out wide. Oh my goodness, completely missed his braking zone there. I think thinking he needed to brake on the outside line, but in fact he needed to brake the best part of 30 metres earlier than that, and straight into the side of his rival there, and that was Kimi Dorzone, who ended up getting caught out there, and well, both of the drivers will learn from that one very quickly, I can tell you. As we come back to your live racing, well, still plenty of distance to go in this one, and well, our top 3 continue to push onwards, but Corey Lazarus is getting a bit closer as we come to them. Further back, James Parker has had a bit of a nightmare moment. I think he's had an off track coming out of the turn 4 hairpin, and well, as a result, that's cost him quite dearly. In fact, turn 3 hairpin, I should say, and over the crest of turn 4, he's gone sideways, and well, that's cost him 1, it's cost him 2, it's cost him 3 places, and well, James Parker falls all the way back to 13th place now, after running very happily for some time in 10th place, and having to keep Kadeem Mohammed behind him. But over the crest and down he comes then, and now will be looking to go back on the attack versus Pasuka as he roars his way in towards the second half of lap number 5. But behind him, Jason Munson also looking to go on the charge here. Munson having to work hard. That's going to be an easy move to make versus Jones-Rodway, who goes very deep there coming through turn number 8. So that's 1 for Munson, but he's still got plenty more to go. Remember, he started all the way up in 5th place, and right now he wants to recover there from 15th, and his recovery is gradually getting underway. The same could be said for Carl McGuinness here as he looks to try and go around the outside at Mihukla as he roars his way in towards turn 11. Can't quite find it there, so now he switches back to turn number 12, and this will be the uphill run all the way through and into that braking zone. Unfortunately, things are not going to quite come undone for Mihukla as it will for McGuinness here, as he has a huge bit of oversteer there coming out of the first of the 2 hairpins in this switchback sequence, and now coming downhill through turn number 14. He's going to tuck right into the toe there and have to look for the double draft opportunity. We ride on board then with the number 11 drivers. He comes on through Galp Corner, looks to cut back there, but the problem is that Jones-Rodway doesn't carry too much speed. Mukla gets caught up, and McGuinness now with the double draft. Well, he's going to look to make it 3 wide here. This is going to be brave, it's going to be bold, but is it going to be smart? Well, coming on down, it's going to be McGuinness on the inside, Jones-Rodway in the middle, and Mihukla on the outside, and McGuinness still there, but Mihukla gets ahead, and McGuinness gets ahead, and well, what about Jones-Rodway? He goes back for it here, coming through turn 2 into 3, so Carl McGuinness here enjoying a brilliant scrap, no doubt about it, but he's not quite able to make the move stick, and a brilliant counter-attack there from Jones-Rodway in order to retake 17th place. They continue to fight. With all this fighting happening, well, you have to forgive us for the fact we have missed a change of 2nd place. Victor Nielsen is now up into 2nd ahead of Philip Hammer, so despite the fact he may be a newcomer to our top split grid, well, the one thing that is certain is the fact that he's not letting it daunt him, and this was how Philip Hammer and Victor Nielsen exchanged places only moments ago. So this was going through turn one in towards 2. Did Hammer make a mistake? He went out slightly wide, but it didn't really upset his momentum. But in the end, Victor Nilsson decided going all in there. Now that is bold. That is a big statement of intent there, and that upset the balance of both drivers coming out of the hairpin. Hammer on that tighter line through turn number 4, where he got a good run, but Victor Nilsson there powered through the oversteer, despite using the runoff area as well, which unsettled the car, and coming down towards turn number 5. I think Hammer here fought it a little bit, but also recognised the fact that Nilsson really wants this second place, and that's going to cost them both the opportunity to chase the lead. So therefore, Philip Hammer deciding to let that one go, playing the bigger picture race, but a brilliant battle between them, and Victor Truslev Nilsson absolutely brazen there. And indeed, I do remember my fellow commentator in the Danish F4 Esports Championship of Hesse Roma talking about the fact that Victor Truslev Nilsson really was a force to be reckoned with from day one of the championship. Oh, that's why he was right up there in the standings come the end of the season. But as we come back to your live racing, 2 wide there between Thomas Frost and Sergio Paulet. Frost running out wide. That will give him a slowdown, which he has to serve. And thankfully, our overlay now, if you see a little yellow flag against a driver's name, for a brief moment, that means they're serving a slowdown. If you do see a black box with a white checker for it, or white X for it, that means they've been disqualified. And well, that will help us identify when our drivers have been a little bit mischievous, or they've been caught out by the iRacing automated stewarding system. But it's doing a brilliant job, and indeed right now our driver's doing a brilliant job of racing, as we say hello to Maxim Racing there in the YouTube chat, as always is here tuning in for the team. We hope you guys are doing well. But as Thomas Frost here looks to go hunting after Paulet once again for 5th place, or Zach Hirt right now, the Swiss driver here looking to go back on the attack. But what will come of them, we'll have to wait and see as they roar the way out of vision and to the other camera they go. Well, from these drivers right now, there's nothing between them. And Connor Franson, meanwhile, all over the back of Kadim Mohammed as they fight over 10th place. Keep in mind, of course, it's only 6 tenths before you get to Pasuka and also Parker, who are behind. So right now it's a 4-way fight here as Franson looks up the inside. Temptation was there, and no doubt about it from our number 5 driver. He really thought about going for the move, but decided at the last moment it's not worth it. I'm going to go on a collision course, otherwise with Mohammed, and we're heading in towards turn number 13. You can see there Kadim Mohammed struggling under braking. Franson being made to look up the inside. This will put him on the outside, coming through at the right under a 14. But if he times this right, he'll get a huge slingshot out the corner, but he doesn't time it right at all. He finds a faceful of the number 23 car, and right now Mohammed doing a fantastic job here of really just proving to be an immovable object, which is sometimes what you've got to do when you're not as fast as the driver behind. You've just got to be frustrating coming through these corners. However, there's a long straight, and this is where Franson surely is going to have an opportunity to look for a move up the inside. Here he goes then. It's a battle of drag speed, and heading in towards turn number 1 on that number 8. Connor Franson will move up the inside into Primera Corner and take 10th place off of Mohammed, but meanwhile trying to take 11th off of Mohammed is Pazuka as he looks up the inside into turns 2 and 3. He gets there. Does he get to the apex in time? He just about does so in the number 24. And our 2 lowest rated drivers here, and a brilliant scrap to be best of the rest. But going around the outside, that is going to be Patsuka ahead of Mohammed. And now here comes Parker, who's trying to come back into this fight. Remember, he was running in 10th place earlier in the race, only for it to go wrong. And right now, the number 12 driver there, up the inside for ATEC Racing. Can he get the job done? Yes, he can, and takes 12th place back, but not without some oversteer on exit. And that is going to cost him the place. He loses it as quickly as he gains it. And James Parker right now just not quite sealing the deal, missing the final 5% here in his battles with drivers. But I'm sure he'll find it towards the end. Hold up a second. That's not the racing line. That's far from it. Connor Franson taking a huge excursion at turn number 7 and on towards 80 rejoined. But he drops back to 11th place and letting Bartomle Basuka ahead of him now as the top 10, well, the bottom end of the top 10 continues to exchange hands. And Kadim Mohammed here now looking for an opportunity to come back at the man who put one on him earlier on in this lap, but not quite able to do so at the moment as they finally calm down. But with these drivers calming down, we did have at the front of the field a slowdown for Victor Nilsson, and that's enabled this man, Gareth Higgins, now to extend his lead to 1 second as he heads on to lap number 9. We're already heading towards the closing stage of this race. As quickly as we started, we're coming to the close, but right now your top 4 are continuing to push each other onwards. We have got repair work on going in the pit lane for our 23rd place runner of Bernhard Gerger, who's been involved in a major shunt a little bit earlier on lap number 7. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can, but right now the racing definitely taking that centre stage here. Some brilliant racing up and down the field. And speaking of down the field, well, here's Carl McGuinness currently running 18th place. Well, it is going to be 18th still, as we do have a bit of a internet connectivity issue there for Alan Buckley. But here comes McGuinness then. He looks once, but Jones Rodway tries to do the same versus Monica. And well, these are 3 all together right now, equal on pace. But Arcadius Monica at this point, I think, just knowing all he's got to do is make his car as wide as humanly possible, as that's going to be a late run into the corner from Jones Rodway. I think some frustration perhaps building there for our number 20 driver behind as they come out of the corner, and now they power the way back down towards turn number 5. But you can see here, Arcadius Mojica just pulling away for a bit, and that is going to give him the opportunity to run away into the distance here as they head towards the braking zone. And well, from them, we have had Kyle McGuinness actually lose out versus Matthias Troutman. I think Troutman getting the run through turn number 4, having a better exit compared to McGuinness. That was in the distant camera view as we continue to ride on the back here of the number 17. In fact, leaving the car behind, we do get a quick replay of what just happened there for Kyle McGuinness, I believe, and how Matthias Troutman made the move stick. Now, this was Kyle McGuinness having a poor run through turn number 4, and in fact, such poor run that he was going quite slowly coming down towards turn number 5. I believe he may have been serving a slowdown as well, and Troutman just taking the place off him as quickly as that into the turn 5 hairpin. Well, back to live racing we come then. There's still more stories to be told, that's certain. But what story is it going to be next that we tell? And right now, Arcadius Mojica with Jones Rodway behind. They're 4 tenths separated as they bring this lap to a close. That'll be lap number 9 for them. A little bit further up the road, coming through Galp Corner at turn number 15. Kadeem Mohammed and James Parker are getting a little bit closer and closer. They're getting more acquainted with each other at this time as they head down towards turn number 1. But as we can see, it is going to be a long line of cars here. We do have the best part now of 5 drivers all chasing down what is none other than 10th place. And at the very front of it, well, there is Patsuka as we see a run wide there in the rear of the picture from Jason Munson, who's going to pick up a slow down penalty for running wide at turn number 1. He'll have to serve that, and Munson's race is going from good to bad to worse, no matter how hard he tries to recover it. But make no mistake here right now, the fight for 10th place is definitely on, even if we have only 4 drivers close for it, albeit Jason Munson there taking the place of James Parker. Had a really poor run coming out of turn number 4, so Parker loses a place, and Munson now gains from the deluge of difficulties for the ATEC Racing driver. Out of the hairpin they go, and that gap to Mohammed is 1.4 seconds, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the lap Jason Munson has already closed that up despite some damage on that car. The number 9 driver here definitely showing he's got top 5 pace, but can he get it together to get into the top 10 before all is said and done, as that is a big power slide there from Connor Franson, who uses a bit of gravel as well to settle the car down. Connor Franson right now so eager in the number 5 to find a way past the lowest rated driver in this lobby, and that's not to be rude about Bartolomé Bazooka in the fact that he's doing an incredible job here to hold on to 10th place, having qualified 16th, and that just goes to show you it's not about your door number necessarily, it's about the talent behind the wheel and just keeping it calm, cool and consistent. And Connor Franson's so close at the moment trying to look for that move, but the problem is he's getting close to all the wrong points on the lap, and therefore he's not finding any opportunities to get on through. But Roy in their way on down. Meanwhile, going out the final corner, there's been a bit of drama for Fabian Ming, who's dropped down to 7th place. He's lost out versus Thomas Frost only moments to go. And in fact, Zach Head has fallen a bit further back as well. What exactly has happened to Zach Head? I think he, in fact, is the one who's lost 2 places coming down the start-finish straight. That car's going quite slowly. Do we have a replay to explain? I think we may. So this was our Swiss driver coming through, turn number 15, right his way into the corner. Does he get a little bit sideways? Oh my goodness, that is a big slide loose there coming through Galp Bend. And well, that somehow Zach Head was able to keep it together. Many wouldn't have, but he managed to find a way to do so. And that's why he lost 2 places there coming onto the start for this straight. The rear of the car just stepping loose. And in the end, he had to really step to it in order to make sure the car did not get away from him any further. But with that in mind, we'll come back to your live racing and we look all the way back to the top 4. And here they are, your 4 standard drivers, all at the very front right now. They haven't changed their running order since the mid-portion of the race. It's Higgins and Nilsson with Hammer and Lazarus together. And well, to give you a little bit of history between some of these drivers, Gareth Higgins, of course, a driver who is relatively new to the running order, having joined us only as of what was the Week 7 broadcast, albeit there he did bring home an absolutely brilliant 2nd place behind Philip Hammer, and meanwhile he managed to stay ahead of Lucas Riz right at the end of the racing. And then since then we haven't seen Higgins on the podium, so he would be going for his 2nd podium of the Top Split broadcast schedule for this season. Behind him, Victor Nilsson, newcomer today, well, he's trying to chase down the win, if not at least an overall podium. Philip Hammer, conversely, well, for Philip Hammer, he has proven to be one of the fastest drivers out there, and he's taken a couple of wins this season and multiple podiums with it. However, he's not had the best of luck over the last couple of weeks of the top split broadcast, and that bad luck seems to have gone away today, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit on his mind. Whereas the man behind him, who he's been a regular in battling with, Corey Lazarus, well, for Corey, if he carries on this way, he will be breaking his run of podiums, which extends all the way back to week 8, where he's finished third, and third again. He is Mr. Third Place at the moment, but right now he's going to become Mr. Fourth Place if he finishes where he currently is, because with only 2.5 laps left, he's not looking to finish on the podium right now, and well, I think he wants to try and make sure he's back on that podium once again to preserve his reputation. But of course, he does have a very popular and positive reputation beyond that, and will run his way on down right now. I think he might just be biding his time here, as all 4 of these drivers very even, but when you're this close on the pace, it's now all about who's going to be the first one to make even the tiniest of mistakes. Charging away onwards, we look a little bit further back to 5th place. Sergio Paulet versus Thomas Frost. Frost there still with him, a little bit of power oversteer there as he tries to come out of the corner a bit faster than the car wants to handle. So Frost right now close in the number 6. He's running where his door number says he should finish, so he'll be very happy with that. However, at this time, the only problem is that he wants to go for a little bit more and he needs to chase down the Spaniard in front of him, but to do so, he's got to find a way in, and that's not easy when you consider the fact that these drivers right now very even on pace, and Fabian Ming is closing up behind a little bit. He's only 1.5 seconds back, but he is the faster of the 3. But Christian Carlson also looking to try and bring himself into that hunt. But your top 10 completed by Zach Haidt and Bartolomej Patsuka. And well, Patsuka, despite all the pressure on him, has in fact broken away from Conor Franson, who is now 1 second behind. But won't be if Patsuka makes that mistake, coming through turn number 13 and in towards 14. He went a bit wide there of the hairpin apex, and that cost him his line into the next corner. But from that and the theory to what's happening right now in reality, well, you can see your top 4 getting very, very eager to run out wide through turns 1 and 2 and in towards 3. And well, now they're all going to push the track limits a little bit more, because they're on the penultimate lap, and therefore this is where you start to see the drivers who've been able to bank the off tracks or the instant points. They might use them a little bit tactically here, but of course experience will tell them how wide they can run out of turn number 1 before they end up triggering the automated slowdown, and what constitutes just a run wide and a tactical advantage. And we always like to refer to those minor off tracks as tactical off tracks, because they can help you gain a 10th, but they come at the cost of an instant point. If you haven't got instant points to spare, you may find yourself very quickly getting a drive-through penalty for your misdemeanor. We're coming through turn 7 and 8 right now. Well, all 4 of them absolutely dialed in here, and well, Corey Lazarus, the back marker of this group in terms of the fact that he's watching and looking at opportunity to pick up potentially 3 places. Well, all he's got to do at this point in time, I think, is just wait his turn, because of the fact that Higgins is under pressure from Nielsen and Hammer is there. But Lazarus has an opportunity here. He plays the spectator seat game, which is he waits to see whether the 3 cars in front have an altercation. If they do, he may be able to pick up not just 1 place, but perhaps 2, perhaps even all 3. However, on the final lap, that's where the pressure really starts, because of course he's only got 1 lap left and he's suddenly got to work some magic. Speaking of magic, coming back to the battle for 10th, well, there's Conor Franson going inside to outside through turns 9 through to 11, and just shuts the door right on the face of Bartolomej Patsuka as they roll the way through, and Patsuka's defence of 10th place suddenly falls at the wayside as Conor Franson makes his way on through. But from then we now make the way back to the front of the field, and as we do, well, it's Higgins, Nielsen, Hammer and Lazarus as they go on to the final lap of racing here at the Algarve International Circuit. But will it be Gareth Higgins who brings on home the win come the end of this lap? Well, we are due to see, ladies and gentlemen. It would be for Gareth Higgins his first win of the Strength of Field or Top Split broadcast of this season. And what a win it would be, because he'd be taking on a newcomer who's definitely going to become an established face here, Victor Nielsen, but he'll also be taking on 2 of the regulars of the podium, if not race winners, of Philip Hammer and Corey Lazarus. Well, right now, Gareth Higgins seems to be doing everything right. However, he's still got to get it done over the last couple of laps. As meanwhile, on the battle for 10th, we have had an instant for Conor Franson, and that has seen Patsuka move back into the order as Franson's had to tow to the pits. But we're going to stay fixed here to the top 4 for the remainder of the distance now. And, well, Hammer there falling backwards a little bit towards Lazarus. He's not quite as close to Victor Nielsen as he would like to be. And, intriguingly, I think Hammer actually running out a little bit of steam here, which is very rare we see that from Hammer. Normally he is the one driver who finds a way to keep the pace up all the way through, but I suspect it's how well all 4 drivers have been running here that right now they are all running out of steam, and therefore for Hammer, It's a bit of an unfamiliar position here, the fact that he is matching with 3L drivers who all have been able to maintain their pace. But here comes Lazarus up the inside. He goes for it there in towards turn number 13. That's going to put Hammer on the defensive line down to 14. And well, Lazarus there, he had to go for it. He had to try and cause a bit of disruption to the running order. And he saw his opportunity to go for it there, just lean a little bit off the brake. So that means now their battle for third will take their centre stage as Gareth Higgins and Victor Nielsen make the way away. But as they do, there can only be one winner today. And for Gareth Higgins, he might have started in second, but he's going to take victory here at Algarve in a brilliant drive. Congratulations to Gareth Higgins ahead of Victor Nielsen and Philip Hammer, with Corey Lazarus missing out on the podium for the first time in 4 weeks. He'll take fourth ahead of Sergio Paulet, who will take 5th place there, and a brilliant end to his race to round off the top 5. Fabian Ming holds on to 6th ahead of Christian Carlson, and then we will have Zach Hitt, who comes home in 8th place ahead of Thomas Frost, who's 9th, with Bartolomeo Patsuka in the end a further 12 seconds back. But give this man a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That's a top 10 for our number 24 driver ahead of Jason Munson, who's best of the rest. Kadeem Mohammed and James Parker complete your top 13, with Arcadius Mojica in the end making his way on through, despite the intentions of Riley Jones-Rodway to take 14th place. Jones-Rodway taking 15th, and then Adam Klamvik in 16th ahead of Alan Backley, who just held off Alvaro Rodriguez for 17th, with Rodriguez only the best part in the end of a couple attempts behind. Carl McGuinness, well, he's got a bit of a journey to do before he completes his race. Not been his day today after being one of the stars at Road America in that brilliant fight over the distance for the bottom end of the top 15. But right now for Carl McGuinness today, it's going to be a frustrating 19th place. There was more on the table, but it hasn't worked out as he reaches his checkered flag. And then we will see Matthias Troutman finish in 20th place. And then the last of our finishing runners will be none other than Kimi Dorns, who makes his way out of the final corner in the Rexy machine. And well, to be fair, to get to the end of the race, even though it's all gone wrong, that is testament to commitment, and we do love to see that there from another 19 driver. But as the racing comes to a close, an absolutely brilliant race here for week number 11, no doubt about it. Our drivers parking up or towed to the pits, and as they do, let's walk you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. So after a brilliant 14 laps of racing here at the Algarve International Circuit in Portugal, Gareth Higgins takes victory for the Week 11 Top Split broadcast of the 2025 Season 3 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT round. Taking victory in the end by half a second over Arctic Sim Sports' Victor Nielsen, new on the grid, and whether he races in Formula 4s or Porsche Cup cars, he's definitely a podium contender, and he demonstrated that today, hunting after the win, but couldn't quite find it, but very much settled in to a second place finish. Philip Hammer for Pole Promotion Esports spent the majority of the race running in third after losing the lead to Higgins in the opening stages. It was then Victor Nielsen who crept one up the inside of him midway through, and then Corey Lazarus tried to steal away third place from the German driver, but the Pole Promotion Esports drivers having none of it and held off his old friend and rival. Speaking of Corey Lazarus then, it was 4th place for him in the number 3, head of Sergio Paulet, who did well to fight for 5th and break away by 3 seconds over Fabian Ming. Christian Carlson took 7th ahead of Zach Hitt, with the Swiss driver being followed up there by Thomas Frost, who was a further 7 tenths behind. And then in 10th place, having started from 16th, Bartolomeo Patsuka, a brilliant drive there for the Polish driver, and rounding off your top 10. In 11th, it was Jason Munson, a frustrating race for him in the early stages up to 5th, but then a major incident cost him dear, and he had to go on the recovery drive. Kadeem Mohammed was one of the drivers he passed along the way, and Mohammed there, who did very well to hold on to 10th place for quite a bit of time, in the end fell by the wayside versus Conor Franson, and also there Bartolomej Bahuska, and well, it did end up being a 12th place finish for the Barbados driver. However, he held off James Parker, who spent a lot of time going sideways at turn number 4, which was to his detriment, with Arcadius Mojica finished behind him in 14th place. Riley Jones-Rodway just fell short there for 14th, took 15th in the end. However, he was ahead of Adam Klamvik, with the ice-cold racing powered by Maxim Racing driver in the end 2 seconds clear of Alan Backley. And then round off your top 20, it was Alvaro Rodriguez, head of Carl McGuinness and Matthias Troutman. Outside the top 20, meanwhile, let's not forget about them. We did have finishes there for Kimi Dornze, and well, the Frenchman being the last of our lead lap finishers were a lap down to Conor Franson in 22nd place, and the Dutchman being followed up by the retirees of Bernhard Giger and also Radek Cerny, 23rd and 24th, but classified as non-finishers. So that concludes our rundown of the results, ladies and gentlemen, and brings our racing to a close for the Portuguese circuit in week number 11 of the 2025 Season 3 campaign. What a race, no doubt about it, but Gareth Higgins finally gets a maiden win on the board there ahead of Victor Nielsen and Philip Hammer. And Philip Hammer, meanwhile, puts aside the woes of the last couple of weeks where it's all gone wrong on the opening lap or two and finally brings home a podium. He will be pleased with that. But with our racing coming to a close, where it's appropriate, just before we do wrap up, that we give you a word about our title sponsor for this series, and that of course is CONSPIT. Let's talk a little bit more about who they are and what they have to offer for you guys and girls at home, the ultimate sim racing experience. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention's now turned, of course, to our final week. And week 12 of 12 will see our drivers make the way to Hungary for the Hungaroring. Come join us on Wednesday, the 3rd of September 2025, as we bring you all the racing action from our final Strength of Field race or Top Split broadcast of the 2025 Season 3 campaign. And that will be, of course, from our regular 1945 GMT or Universal Coordinate Time, that's Greenwich Mean Time I should say, or a UTC time slot. But until then, we have been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain's Bit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.